The Dorian mode is used in loads of songs, and we'll be looking at 8 cracking songs that use this beautiful sounding mode in this video. But first, what exactly is the Dorian mode? The Dorian mode is a special kind of minor scale. It's very similar to the standard natural minor scale or Aeolian mode that you probably already know and use. However, instead of the flat 6 that we hear in the natural minor scale, the Dorian mode will contain a natural 6 note. Take A natural minor for example. We have the notes A, B, C, D, E, F and G, with the scale spelling 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7 and 8. In A Dorian, however, we would have the notes A, B, C, D, E, F sharp and G. And that would have a scale spelling of 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7 and 8. So that one note, that F sharp, makes a huge difference. Not only to the sound of the scale, but also to the underlying harmony, or basically the chords that are sitting underneath. The unique interval patterns give each mode its distinct sound, flavour and characteristics. Take the Dorian song Oyo Como Va by Santana for example. Listen to the Dorian vibe. Now compare it to Street Spirit by Radiohead in Aeolian or natural minor. Huge difference in feel and vibe. I find that the Dorian scale sounds much brighter and livelier than the natural minor scale. But what do you think? Listen to this song, Impressions by John Coltrane. This song uses Dorian throughout, playing on the tonal centre rather than relying on a chord progression. Miles Davis's tune So What does the exact same thing, swapping from D Dorian to E flat Dorian throughout the entire song. Dorian isn't just a scale. Dorian is actually the second mode of the major scale. It even shares the same notes as the major scale. In the case of A Dorian, it comes from G major, the parent scale. This is the scale where our mode was built, where we created it. So you might be thinking, well, isn't A Dorian just G major then? It has the same notes. How's it any different? Well, changing the centre of gravity or the root note of the scale from G to A changes the way the intervals interact with the underlying harmony. The G major scale has its grounding on a G note and the G major chord, whereas A Dorian mode has its grounding on an A note and an A minor chord. You need to be careful how you're thinking about these modes. Musicians wouldn't tend to use A Dorian with G major. A Dorian has a completely different harmonic context and vibe. In fact, you're much more likely to use A Dorian with A major. You should think of Dorian as an A-based scale. It is used with other A-based scales that have the same tonic. You're likely to use A Dorian with A Ionian, A Phrygian, A Lydian, anything that has an A as the root. There's a couple of progressions that you can use to highlight the particular sound of the Dorian mode, and they are used frequently in popular music. The song Drive by R.E.M. is a fantastic example of a song that uses the typical Dorian progression. The chords are D minor and G major, from a minor 1 to a major 4 chord.
Smash, crack, push around. Tie another one to the wraps, baby.
This progression signifies the Dorian sound perfectly. The minor 1 chord sets us up in that minor tonality, and the major 4 chord contains that special note, that 6th interval from the Dorian mode. In this case, it's a B natural note. This gives us a totally Dorian sound. If we were to add more chords, we would need to be careful we didn't pull the tonality somewhere else. Check out Pick Up the Pieces by Average White Band, another example of this fantastic chord progression. Only this time, we go from minor 1 to dominant 4. Also check out Lucky by Radiohead, E minor to A, minor 1 to major 4. Reptilia by the Strokes is another fine example of this chord progression being used. We go from a B minor to an E major chord, minor 1 to major 4 in the verse. Oyo Como Va by Santana, which we mentioned earlier, does exactly the same thing, minor 1 to dominant 4. Pink Floyd use Dorian in loads of their songs, they're famous for it. But a perfect example of them using the minor 1 major 4 is the song Breathe. One obvious substitution for the major 4 chord is the minor 2 chord, which shares many of the same notes as the 4 chord. The 2 chord also includes that natural 6th note, so we still get the Dorian feel. In A Dorian, the minor 2 chord would be B minor, and we would have the notes B, D, and F sharp. F sharp is that natural 6th note still in there, and that's very similar to the 4 chord in A Dorian, which would be D major, D, F sharp, and A. So the notes overlap there and they both contain that natural 6th note. Check out these songs to hear the minor 1, minor 2 progression. 505 by Arctic Monkeys, D minor and E minor. And Moondance by Van Morrison, A minor to B minor.
It's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above in your eyes.
These Dorian chord progressions of vamps are a great way to explore Dorian in your own music. You should also see if you can hear them in other songs too. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you find it helpful. Take care.